Hey there, YouTube! Welcome back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer. And in this video, we're going to talk about a few subjects. Something old, something new, and something I just had a realization on. Well, sort of. But anyways, we'll get into that. Before we do, my normal disclaimer, blah 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 blah, cue the lights, the effects, all that. If you like the channel, click the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Click the bell icon, and every time I make a new video, you will hear about it. So, I got a couple of things here I want to talk about, and one other thing as well. So let's just dive right into it, shall we? So, since I've hit 100,000 subscribers, and thank all of you out there for that and helping me get to that point, YouTube constantly sends you these little snippets, hey, do this for your channel, do this, do that, do this, do that, do this. And I noticed what wound up happening is this turned into more of a job than my passion for gaming. So the realization that really hit me is I was watching some documentaries about gaming. I came across one, and this gentleman was talking about how if you enjoy gaming and you get into the gaming industry, how you're not going to have time for gaming. As a matter of fact, he's like, you're not going to make much money off of it. You're going to be constantly working after your full-time job. Get used to working vacations, because any vacation time you have is going to be burned up going all over the country trying to promote and sell whatever it is that you're making, and you're just not going to have time for it. And the word of advice that he gave was, if you like gaming and enjoy gaming, just do that. Don't even try to go off into this direction, because what's going to wind up happening is you're not going to game anymore, and you're just going to become, at that point, a slave to the grind. And those words really resounded with me. And I sat back and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like what I'm doing. I mean, I come home from work, and instead of enjoying gaming, I've turned it into where I gotta read this, I gotta get this done, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And it wasn't really about gaming. It's turning into a job, and I was starting to be like, man, I hate doing this. And it's seeing that snapped a light bulb in my head, and it went off, and I said, wait a minute, I gotta get back to the roots of basically what the channel is about. It's about talking about gaming, particularly solo gaming, and you guys have an obnoxious talking head streaming into your living rooms or your cell phone or whatever it is, thank you very much, but not a job. So I got to that realization and said, okay, I need to get back to the roots. I need to get back to the basics. And that's what I've done. Now, it's springtime. Spring has finally sprung. You can hear the frogs singing at night. You can see the bugs congregating underneath the street lamps at night. It's warm outside. You can wear a t-shirt and not a coat anymore. And as you're driving down the road, you can wave to some random stranger like you know them, just ruining their entire day as they go about their business, wondering who in the hell that was and why you recognize them, but they don't recall knowing you. It's fun. You should try it. You should absolutely try it. You'll get a good giggle out of it. So anyway, with that, they've increased hours at work. So now it's from 5-day work week, 2 days off, to 6 days now. And, well, it does kind of take a chunk out of gaming time. But the upside of it is I'm making money, so when things get slow again, I can buy more gaming products. But that doesn't stop me. Absolutely not. I decided it was time to add a new game into the library. I finally finished Massive Darkness and painted all those minis and played a few games, and it was great. And I kind of wanted to, how do I put this, purge Massive Darkness out of my life for a little bit, because I'd come home and have these miniatures staring me in the face, and it'd be like, okay, finish painting this miniature, read this book, prep this for a video, go to bed, go to work, and just do that over and over and over again. And then I finally made a decision. I said, that's it. The miniatures are getting painted, the game system's getting finished, and that's what I did, and thank God that's over. Am I going to get another set like Massive Darkness anytime soon? Probably not. I mean, that was a lot of painting, and even for my standards, I enjoy making gaming terrain, and I enjoy painting minis, but that was a lot of painting for me. Now, if I had like a 2-week vacation to where I had nothing to do, was sitting around the house, yeah, that would be a great time burner right there to be able to sit down and paint all those minis. But with everything else I got going on, it just too much. So, but I can say it's done. Thank God. So I decided it was time for a new game system. And this is where the thing is I'm talking about the old. It's been out for a while, and for you solo enthusiasts out there, it's a great game to have. The game itself, it can be played solo. You get great tiles with it. You get great minis with it. You get a lot of stuff for your money. And Amazon had just run a sale on it. Now, here's a disclaimer. I try not to buy games at full price. I mean, when it comes to RPG books, stuff like that, I will, because I understand, you know, a lot of these people are pouring their heart and their soul out into these things and writing them, and the cost of publishing and all that. So, yeah, I don't have a problem paying that money because, you know, in the end, it's supporting them. But when it comes to larger companies that mass produce these games, no, I'm not going to pay top price. I wait till they come down in price and they go on sale. Then I buy them because I'm getting the same game at a less price. Even when I was addicted to video games for a while there, and I mean, my life was consumed by Sony 4. Well, first it was Sony 2, then it was Sony 3, and then Sony 4, and not so much anymore. But I did the same thing with the discs. I'd never buy the disc when they're first released and pay $60. I would wait till it comes down in price, and then go in and buy it for half. I'm still getting the same game. It hasn't changed. I'm just getting it for a lesser price. So call me cheap, call me old-fashioned, call me whatever you will, but it's the way that I do it. So let's talk about the first game that I bought. That would be Dungeons & Dragons: The Legend of Drizzt. Now, if you are not familiar with The Legend of Drizzt, I highly recommend picking up the book and reading it. Exile, it's a great book. I loved it. I even have the graphic novels. And it really gives you an awesome overview of the D&D, I'm going to say, universe, if you will. And outlining, that's not a good word, outlining. I'm going to say giving you a really good flavor of what the Forgotten Realms is and the key players, and particularly with the Legend of Drizzt. Now, Drizzt is a drow elf, which means, you know, by their standards, I mean, he's evil. He's supposed to be evil because they're an evil bunch. They worship this evil spider queen named Loth, and the women at that point hold all the power within their society, and the men are there basically like cannon fodder. I mean, they use them to, at that point, reproduce. If they're getting attacked, you throw them out there. If a couple hundred of them get killed, whatever. If Loth demands a sacrifice, they round up a couple of dozen and kill them, whatever. You know, they hold the female in high regard, and the males, not so much. So along comes Drizzt. Drizzt is really good with wielding scimitars. Dual sword wielding. And he's quick, but he's a good guy. And he doesn't align himself with the evilness of the Drow elves and what they believe. So he escapes that life to a life of the surface, and finding many friends along the way, he becomes a key player in the Forgotten Realms. And that's just to give you a quick brief overview, and that's not even an overview. I'm just giving you a very, very vague background of Drizzt Do'Urden. But he is absolutely one of my favorite characters, And I decided to pick this box set up to give it a shot. Now, I've talked about these before. They're awesome set. And when you get them, they give you a bunch of awesome dungeon tiles to go with it. Every time you play the game and you set it up, the dungeon's always different. So you never know how it's going to, come out. Unless you formulate it that way and you use the same cards. I guess you could do that, making the same dungeon. Don't know why you would, but you always could. And the nice thing is they do double for when you play your tabletop RPG solo or minis. You can always pull these out and use them for that. Now on top of that, they give you minis. Now some of these are going to have to be painted. I'm going to show you a couple of the really cool ones that I really enjoy. There's the Feral Troll. And of course, can never remember what they call these things. So I'm going to pull the card out here so I know I am pronouncing it correctly. And I thought I set this towards the top before I even began the video. Oh well. Let's take, oh, there it is. I did. I just overlooked it. This is the Dinen du Erden Drider, which is a rather nasty looking thing. But once it's painted up, it'll look really cool. Of course, am I going to paint it anytime soon? Probably not. Maybe towards, the long holidays we have coming up, Memorial, the 4th, and Labor Day weekend. Maybe I'll get into that, but I don't foresee that so much in my future right now. And of course, to give you other cool little minis with it, they give you a lot of goblins, which I never have enough of these. I don't know about you guys out there, but even when D&D came out with the original resin miniatures after they did away with chainmail, and this is during the 3rd edition years, and they started coming out with all these minis, and I was collecting them. I could never get goblins, so I went into Hero Quest, which is my favorite game. Stores are no longer around, and so I'm like, man, what's going on? I'm buying these booster packs, and I'm like, I haven't got a goblin. And of course, Nate, the store owner's looking at me, he's like, what are you talking about? Everybody's complaining they don't get it, that's all they get. He's like, you must be getting the lucky packages there, because look, and he pulls out this tray and it was just heaped with goblins. And I'm like, no way. I'm like, how much? He's like, they're $0.25 a piece, man. He goes, there's so many of them, people just bring them in and they trade them in. So, I was like, screw it, give me $20 worth. You can never have too many goblins this way. But they gave me more and goblin archers, and so that's cool. I'm going to enjoy that. Kind of small, which is going to make a challenge for painting them, but yeah, we'll deal with that when we cross that bridge. And of course, we have the main hero of the story, Drizzt du Erden. And the thing that I found really cool that they did add in here, but they didn't give me a stat card for it, which was, I thought, kind of weird, which is Guinevere. And Guinevere, sorry, I had a slight landslide in here of books. Guinevere is a magical Black Panther, and he can summon Guinevere when he needs help, or basically just to hang out with Guinevere, and it's his familiar. And the cool thing about Guinevere is she's very ferocious in battle in stories, and when she gets injured, she doesn't die, she just goes back to the astral realm until she heals, and then she can be summoned back. And at that point, she's by Drizzt's side all the time. So I thought it was really cool that they included the miniature, but they don't give you a stat card for Guinevere, which I thought was kind of weird. But I am not complaining anyway. But by far the coolest thing out of this set, not only can you play this set solo, you get all these cool tiles, you get cool minis. The main, we'll say, focal point miniature of all miniatures of this game is the Baylor. And the Baylor is very, very, very cool. This will be something I'll really enjoy painting, I can tell you that. And that's going to be really cool to add to my collection. And I have to admit, out of all the D&D sets that I've gotten yet, I mean, like the large red dragon from the set, oh, let me remember that name. I have it up there. Anyways, no. The Wrath of Ashralan. I wanted to say Asmodeus, I don't know why, but Ashralan. And you get the big red dragon out of that, which is about the same size as this. Which is cool, but the thing is, it wasn't that big of a surprise, because I already had a D&D mini of the big red dragon pre-painted from D&D, and I get the on-painted one from them. But I do not have a Baylor demon yet. And that is cool. That is really cool. That's going to be a fun paint to do. And looking at it, I'm guessing they have a number on this, which is a mold number, which means how many that were produced over the run, which is kind of cool. I like when they do that, because as the years go on and they stop production, it does come worth money. And if you're a collector, collectors look for stuff like that. Me personally, I bought it just for gaming, nothing more than gaming, and the whole entire aspect of the collector idea, I'm not going to worry about that. But Drizzt, The Legend of Drizzt is an awesome, awesome game, I have to admit. They did change up some rules from the original one. I talked about Castle Ravenloft, I talked about the Wrath of Ashralan, and their game mechanics in there from originally to what they have updated this. Now, this game is probably about, I'm going to say 3 going on 4 years old now since its release, so it's not new, but it's newer, and I guess you would say it's one of those things that you really don't hear a lot about. I watched a few videos where people have done some reviews on it, and some of them are good. Some of them I thought they could have, brought up some of the better points about it. But the one thing I do like about this particular system versus the older systems is the leveling, which is really cool. So you roll, anytime you roll a natural 20, at that point you can expend your experience and level your character up to the 2nd level, which I really liked, and I really thought that was a really cool rule change that they've done to this system versus the older systems where they didn't have that, and that just went by you paid so much for experience to level your character up. Whereas in this game, they do add that in there, and it's cool because it does give you that moment of, now you're going to pay, and you get that from this game, even when you're playing solo. So it's really cool. I really, really enjoyed it. And on top of that, they give you quite a bit, let me see here, 13 adventures to go through. And of course, the way that this game is set up, you can follow the adventures that they give you here, or you can just pull random tiles and play through a random scenario, creating it for yourself, utilizing your own miniatures. Now, if you're like me, and you also collect minis, and you've had other game systems, you can, at that point, mix these different game systems together and make something really, really cool, particularly with the tiles. And let me see if I can find that book to give you a scope of... there it is. So, when I say collecting minis, pardon the noise, I got stuff dropping all over the place. This is what I'm talking about. So, way back when, and I'm sure it's still the same way now. There's cards I haven't even put in the protectors yet. When you buy the mini, you get the mini, and then you get the card, the stack card with it. And I really enjoyed miniatures. I mean, really enjoyed miniatures. I mean, and these are at that point sleeved on both sides, so every single one of these cards represents a miniature in my collection. And sometimes there's doubled cards, tripled cards, quadrupled cards in there. So for me, these tiles and these systems work really well because I can set up a really cool dungeon for minis and take this whole game system out, throw it in there with the cards and play it, and have a very cool spin on an old game. Now, the older systems, don't mind me, I want to put these books back in here because, well, you can't get these anymore. They don't put these out anymore. So they're like out of print and they're old, and I like to keep them nice and new. Keep them all together in my binder. Older games with the newer games. That's what I was talking about. And so I could take these older games and use them, or like HeroScape, and incorporate them into them. If I didn't want to take out, you know, my large entire bin of geo-tiling. Now, anybody that's played HeroScape knows what I'm talking about. It's a very cool three-dimensional game. It takes a long time to set up. But when you do, it's really cool. The only thing that sucks is when you're done playing the game, there's to tear down and store and sort and everything else that goes into it. Not complaining, I loved the game and I played the heck out of it. And I have to admit, these newer systems made out of cardstock that, just like this, stack nice, and they all go together, and you can make a really cool dungeon relatively quickly. Cleanup is real quick, is a big bonus, and puts a new spin on some older games. And that is the Legend of Drizzt D&D board game. Now, when we talk about a little bit of the ruling, if you've never played any type of these miniature games, they're very, very simple to understand. And they go into phases. So your hero will start out with your hero phase, and you're going to have a couple of decisions to make there, even when you play solo or if you're playing with a large group. And that is, at that point, your character can move and do an action, which they could attack or disable a trap, or they could attack and move, or they could, at that point, if they're already engaged with an encounter, attack 2 times, which is another rule change I forgot to bring up for this game system compared to the older ones, which is really cool, because you can forfeit that movement, and at that point, do 2 attacks, which sometimes does help, because let's face it, sometimes this guy right here can be your best friend, and at other times it could be your worst enemy, because it says, heck no, you're not going to hit that monster. As a matter of fact, you're going to roll a 1, pal. You're going to fumble, and you will die. It happened to me last night. So anyways, moving on as far as the sequences of play, then you go into what they call the exploration phase. So anytime your hero would move to an edge of a tile, like so, that is unexplored, at that point, you would drop another tile from your stack, connect it, and at that point, start building your dungeon. Which is where the randomness comes in, because you shuffle these tiles, you put them together, and you build your tile stack, and you're looking at a stack like this, not like that, or if you want to play it like that, however you want to do it. Me, I like to keep it as a surprise. Draw them off, flip them over, and put your tile in. Now, even the tiles themselves have a unique mechanic to them, and that is, when you look at the tiles, there are 2 different types of tiles. There are ones that have a white arrow and the other ones that have a black arrow. When you get the black arrow one, you would align that with your other tile as so. You can see here how the two arrows are aligned, but when you get the black arrow, that means there's an encounter. Now, on top of facing the monsters that are in the dungeon that generate on all of these little mushroom patches you see here, you get an encounter card. Sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're real bad, and sometimes, well, they're not that bad. It all depends on you draw the card. But you do get an option. That option is, once you start to build up an experience, because every single monster you defeat has an amount of experience attached to them. So, after you get 5 experience points, and you get a tile with an encounter arrow on it, you can always say, I'm going to pay the 5 experience, do away with the encounter altogether. Sometimes that pays off, especially if you're fighting, I don't know, like what I finished up last night, a dragon. Really does help to buy off a few of them encounters, because at that point, well, you're not losing points. Points of health, that is. Now, points of health. Even how this game system's set up, each character starts with 2 healing surges. And the healing surges, once you are reduced to 0 hit points, will resurrect your character basically to half life. And then once you're out of healing surges, well, at that point your character's dead and the game is over. Yeah, unfortunately. But, nevertheless, this game system is a very, very cool system, and even played solo. Every time you play it, it's something different, it's something new, and it is fun. And I have to say, I really do enjoy this board game. Now, the last phase of this system is the villain phase, when the characters at that point encounter the monsters. Sometimes they may not defeat the monsters, because at that point the dice do not want to let that happen. The dice want to see you suffer, and they want to see at that point your heroes get slayed. Yeah, it happens. So they have their own phases to which they activate and attack your heroes. Now, all of them, as you look at the monster cards, will outline and tell you how the monsters react, this is where the solo aspect comes in, because you just read the card and it's going to tell you if that monster moves how many tiles, and depending on the condition of the hero, because some of them it'll say the hero with the least amount of hit points, the monster attacks first, or the monster attacks the closest hero to its vicinity, so on and so forth. So it's always at that point changing things up when you generate this monster. One of the more cool aspects of the game that I really do like as far as the monsters adding a challenge in is the Drow Sorcerer. And let me make sure I am pronouncing her right. I want to say she was the sorcerer, but she might be a magic user. We'll just say, oh, Drow Wizard. She is the Drow Wizard, which is her right here. She may look innocent enough, but this is where she's kind of rude. She has the ability to teleport from her tile to the tile your heroes are on, in the center of them, right? And then at that point, she casts a Flame Blast, dealing 2 points of damage to your heroes as she succeeds. Now, you may not, compared to RPG games, you may be thinking, well, that's not that substantial. But considering the bulk amount of the monsters you're going to encounter on this board only deal 1 damage, or takes 1 point of damage to kill them, whereas with her, she's dealing 2 points, and it takes 2 points of damage to kill her, which is a little bit more substantial. ups the ante, and there's a good possibility you may not kill her that first round. She may be around for the second round to do more damage yet again. Which adds into the last thing of rolling the dice and the critical. So, and you have to make this decision when you play the game. The way I look at it, they do talk about criticals. When you roll a 20, at that point you do double damage. Now, it wouldn't be very much fun if only the heroes get to do criticals and double damage. So at that point, even the monsters do. So there's a good chance something like her could teleport in, roll a 20, and at that point do 4 points of damage to every hero on that tile. Yeah, and it adds into it, and it's great. It's a great game system. If you're just getting into the hobby and you're looking for a system to introduce you to role-playing games, you want to get some miniatures, you want to get some tiles, you want to get a little bit of everything, have it in one compact box. And the nice thing about this, like I said, with me, now that I'm working more hours, instead of coming home and playing an RPG, I can come home and set this up in a relatively short amount of time. Within about 10 to 15 minutes, I'm playing the game, and a normal game session can last anywhere from 1 to 3 hours, depending on how big I want my dungeon to be. And at that point, when I'm done, I can fold it up, put it away, shelf it, and the nice thing is about it is it has that feel of an RPG game to it, but yet it's miniatures, so it quenches my thirst for miniature skirmish at the same time of an RPG aspect too. And as I once said, doubles out. You have terrain tiles for your RPG systems. You get miniatures for your RPG games. If you like using 3D representations like I do when you play your game, and you have all of those, which is really cool. And if you think about it, all of this came in for about 44 bucks. Now Amazon did I don't know if it was a flash sale or what it was, but they did a sale on it. And I've been eyeballing this for a while, but it's been kind of like out of my reach of what I really want to pay. It's been upwards to about 60 bucks, and then it slowly went down to 50 bucks. And even I started him-hawing when it hit $52, but I was like, I don't know. And then at that point, they had a sale, and they said, hey, 44 bucks. And I said, done. And at that point, I now have Drizzt. And this is probably going to be one of my games throughout the summer. I'm going to go through all the scenarios and play it until I get sick of the Drizzt Do board game, put it up for a while, and probably move on to something such as Castle Ravenloft, or the Wrath of Ashkelon, or the Temple of Elemental Evil, which are all great systems. And like I stressed before in my other videos, you get a lot for your money. You really do. You get some cool miniatures, you get great tiles, you get a lot for your money. So, The Legend of Drizzt. Now, the next game system I want to talk about, I know for most of you out there, if you're gamers, you're probably like me and you have binge watched this on Netflix, probably quite a bit, and enjoyed it, and is anticipating the new season to be released in this July. And that series I'm talking about can only be one thing, and that's Stranger Things. Now, as I said, I shop on Amazon quite a bit, so I'm always looking around, putting in my keywords, Dungeons and Dragons, Palladium, so on and so forth, the different publishers I like. And I came across a pre-release buy, and I had purchased it. To my surprise, it wasn't supposed to show up until May 1st, but I had gotten it early. And that is, which I'm going to open up here, the Dungeons and Dragons Stranger Things set, which also comes with 2 exclusive Demogorgon figures included. So, I say we jump right into this thing and take a look and see what it has to really offer. And maybe this is something for your gaming table. Now, I have enough D&D to last me a lifetime, and probably 3 lifetimes. So the purpose of me buying this really wasn't to play with. It was more or less of what I'm thinking on a collector standpoint of view. Maybe in the future down the road, this will be worth some money, and people will probably maybe want to pay decent money for it. Or maybe not. Maybe it'll be worth nothing. But if history has taught me anything in looking at the older D&D products out there and the prices that they go for and what people ask for these freaking things, I was looking and saying, you know what? I would be a fool not to invest the $20 today and get this and put it on my shelf. And we'll see. Like I said, who knows? This may be worth $5 in the future because they made so many, or it could be a limited time run and these things will be worth more money in the future. Guess we'll just have to find that out and cross that road when we get there. So let's see what's inside the Stranger Things box. So the cool thing about it, when you look on the front, is it's got Will, and at that point he's got his flashlight and he's come face to face with the Demogorgon, as you can see there. Now they made the box, and when you look at it, it looks weathered, you know, and they added paint to it to make it look all beat up and old. But, you know, compared to, let's see, really old beat up sets. I know I have one around here. Maybe not. Guess it's not really not that important. There we go. Compared to some really old beat up sets, I think they did a pretty good job. They forgot the tape on the corners and the faded parts and the creases in the cardboard, but hey, whatever. So let's move on and take a look into what they give us here. Alright. Well, that's cool. So that is a nice touch. I do like that. So they give you a set of blue polyhedral dice, but the unique thing about this dice set compared to the dice set that you buy today is this is the dice that you would get in an old school game system, because it only has 6. There is no percentile dice in here. So you just get the D10 and that's it. But you do get the blue color. This will be my second set, because when I bought the beginner set, is that what they call it for 5th edition? Yeah, I think it was the beginner set, or what the heck was that thing? I can't even remember off the top of my head right now. But when they released it for 5th edition, and it came with your 2 books. The one was explained to you how to play a role-playing game and took you through and slowly building your character. Then it had the adventure of the caves of Philandor, I believe they call it. And in that set, you got the same blue-colored polyhedral set, but you got the percentile dice with it. But this is like old school gaming here. You only get 6, which is really cool. I really do enjoy that. And of course you get 2 Demogorgons. One that they kind of sort of painted, and the other one that they didn't paint. So I'll let you see what I'm talking about here. You can see the one, they painted the mouth over here a reddish color, and this one they just left completely blank for you to paint yourself. So that's pretty cool. Hey, I can say I have a Demogorgon now put into my minis. And then we get into the D&D starter set rule book. Chapter 1, how to play. Getting started, your 6 abilities. Chapter 2, combat, the order of combat, movement and position, actions in combat, making an attack, cover, damage and healing. Then it goes into adventuring, travel, resting, rewards, equipment, spell casting, what is a spell, casting a spell, spell list, and of course you get into your appendix. Well, not my appendix, but the appendix of the book. So, let's see what spells that they offer us here. Oh, that's a nice touch. That's pretty cool. And like I said, it's more of movie memorabilia, or I guess you call this a series memorabilia. But they give you a really cool picture right there on the chapter heading. And that's pretty cool. I like that. That's a nice touch. And this looks like all your standard D&D spells here as they go into this. I'm going to have to spend a little bit more time and read this because I had just opened it. But, you know, we go into the comprehend languages and cure wounds and detect magic, dispel magic, fireball, flaming sphere, hold person, invisibility, and a lesser restoration, mage armor, the mage hand, and of course, magic missile. Very cool. Very, very cool. Huh. Adventuring. That's a nice touch. Very cool. I have to admit. Oh, wow. That is great. So, from the second season, for combat, they add the photo to there. If you can remember when they went to defeat those spawns of the demigorgon things that, anyways, that's really cool. I do like that. It's kind of cool how they put a little twist on that with the chapter headings. They give you some movie stills from there, and that is pretty cool. Oh, wow. So, we have the adventure book, Hunt for the Thessal Hydra, and this is a D&D campaign by Mike Wheeler. And it's really cool how they made it look like coloring pencil and something, you know, remembering back to the 80s when all you had was graph paper. You know, the pewter figurines that you could buy cost a lot of money, and oh wow, I turned it right up to, and this is a nice touch. They make it look like notebook paper. Check this out. That is really cool. I really do like that. So the Upside Down is a kind of alternate dimension, an echo of the material plane where we all live. That means in some ways it's very similar to our world, but in others it's completely different. The Upside Down is a cold, dark place. It's always night there, and the air is always cold. Like just before a snowstorm, you never feel warm in the Upside Down. Also, characters get no natural healing while in the Upside Down. No matter how long you rest, you don't regain any hit points. That's pretty brutal. And you can't spend hit dice. Magical healing still works. So, right there tells you you have to have a cleric in your party in order to even survive looking for the Thessal Hydra. This is a really cool book. I have to admit, that's a nice touch. Overall, it's really cool. Really, really cool how they did the notebook paper, made it look like that. Ah, drawn by Will the Wise himself. Huh. So there's the picture of Will the Wise himself, as he sees himself as character. That's really cool. I have to admit, it puts a smile on my face. It's really cool. Like I said, I enjoy the series. I'm looking forward to the third season to be released. And, you know, for those of us in my age bracket that grew up in the 80s, there's a lot of stuff that we can sit and watch and we see out of there that really takes us back, you know, all the way down to the Trapper Keepers that they have in the series, which is really cool. It's something we haven't thought about in quite a while. And of course, the Trapper Keeper was the cool thing to have. Now this is pretty cool. They give me some pre-generated character sheets here. And I have a 3rd level Bard, a 3rd level Cleric, 3rd level Paladin, 3rd level Ranger, that's half Orc, 3rd level Wizard, that's half Elf. So that is pretty cool how they did that. Now, of course, it's pretty cool. I'll show you. So they give you the template for, and this is for 5th edition D&D. So, but they're trying to make it had that old school D&D feel to it, to the basic edition. And the cool thing is on the back, you know, here's your character and all your necessary character info on the front. Start playing. And then it gives you a background story of it, explains that this particular character's race is a dwarf and he is a bard, and explains to you on the back how to gain levels and level up and all the necessary information you would need if you're new into D&D and just getting into it. This is a kind of a cool buy, really, I have to admit, because the first set, the beginner set, really didn't come with anything other than the little cardboard stock, you know, coin punch outs and the map that you put on there. So this one, for your money, you actually get a cool set of old school polyhedrals, and you get a couple of Demigorgon minis, and of course you get all other cool stuff that you get in here, which is the Adventure for the Thessal Hydra by Mike Wheeler, the starter set rule book, and of course it's all about Stranger Things. That's very cool, very cool. I'm pretty happy with it. I like it. And I probably eventually will get into this and play the Thessal Hydra. I will probably save that for when I get a nice long weekend. Looking forward to the Memorial weekend. Taking some time off and make a nice little vacation out of it. So that's probably when I'm going to bust this out and play the Thessal Hydra. And that was something old and something new. So, all in all, with the review of these, you know, on a scale 1 to 10, where would I rank Legend of Drizzt in? I would have to say Legend of Drizzt, with the miniatures you get, all the tiles. No, I love the stories of Drizzt, so I would have to say I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10, just because of the fact for the price that I paid, all the minis I got out of it, everything that comes with it, to be able to sit down and have a complete game to play solo and set up on my table and just have fun. And the fact that every time you play it, it's like a different game. The tiles are always constantly changing, and it can be used at that point for other game systems that I have, and I can use them with the tiles. So for the price, I get a lot of bang for my buck out of this set. So I would have to say, personally, for me, ranking this a 9 out of 10, and I'm looking at it to view not just strictly for the game itself, but the other uses that I will personally use it for on my game table. And I think it's a great value for everything that you get. Now, where would I rate this right here? Well, it's a very cool game system. You know, you do get some cool Demigorgon minis to go with it. Now, my guess would be they'll probably, I don't know this, I'm just guessing this, but they'll probably come with a follow-up expansion to this, where I'm guessing they'll probably have the actual minis of all the characters, whether they're pre-painted or not, and probably more Demigorgon miniatures. But if they don't, and this is where they stop, then that's really cool. You get 2 Demogorgon miniatures, which means, you know, you're only going to be able to purchase them from this set. And I don't know that 100% because I haven't really checked to see if you can even purchase the Demogorgon miniatures on their own. One other thing I want to look at before I rate my review in this, because I haven't pulled one of these guys out of here. Okay, they're made out of rubber. They're not really like a hard resin like this miniature would be. I mean, you can hear that when I tap it on my monster can there. You can hear it's got some, you know, it's solid. It's a solid resin mini. This is more rubber and it's softer. Now, the cool thing about it is it is stamped on the bottom. It's copyrighted by Netflix. It has a catalog number at that point assigned to it from Hasbro. So generally when you see that, it's kind of almost like authenticity, if you will. Like if you buy something and you get that little letter of authenticity, that's what the stamping is on the bottom of these. So when other companies out there start reproducing duplicates of it, and later on down the road, if collectors are looking for this, this is what they're going to look for. They're going to look for that stamping on the bottom to make sure it's legit. And why that's kind of a good thing, especially now with 3D printing out there. You know, anybody can now scan that and I imagine reproduce that fairly easy and put that out there on the market as a Demogorgon mini. And if you didn't know any better and know to look at the bottom of your minis to see if it has a stamping on them, you may be thinking you're getting real McCoy when really you're just getting a really good duplication. So anyways, with that out of the way, where would I rank this? I'm gonna have to say I would rank it a 7 out of 10. And the only reason why I say that, it's really cool. It's really cool character memorabilia in it. It's, in my opinion, to a sense, kind of like a money grab because they're just reselling the basic starter set again for D&D. They're just putting a Netflix theme on it, which is cool. I really do like that. But in a sense, it's just a starter set. You get 2 minis and a polyhedral set that goes back to old school gaming. So for somebody just getting into this, if they were to buy this and play the game system and decide, hey, now I want to step up and I want to get into 5th edition, and they go and they spend the money for the main core rule books, and they get them to find out, hey, where's my percentile dice? So, which most people, I mean, that's not even really a complaint, because most gamers I know have, like, way more dice than that they really need to play. They probably have enough dice to outfit a small army for an RPG game. I know I do. I got bins of them, and I just, you know, dice are one of those things that are just like, man, you know, you see a cool dice set and you're like, oh wow, that's really cool, you know, and something as a gamer stirs in your brain and tells you, I have to have that game, I have to have that dice set for my game. And then you get it home and you look at it and you're like, yeah, that's cool, you play a few and you put it away, and you're like, that old nasty set that I've had from however long ago, just my favorite dice set. But nevertheless, that's the way I am. When it comes to gaming, I got a weak spot in my heart for it. So, and that's going to be my video, guys. I'm going to wrap that up for you solo players out there. And of course, with this, picking this up, if you haven't gotten into 5th edition D&D and you want to get into 5th edition D&D, and instead of buying those expensive main core rule books, which I haven't even entertained the thought of purchasing yet, you know, I look at the cost of them to get all 3 main core rule books. Realistically, I'm looking at about $150, and I'm just not ready to invest that amount of money. So I'm gonna wait till the prices come down, and then I'm going to purchase them, which that'll be in the future, not anytime soon. But nevertheless, if you just want to get into D&D and you want to get into 5th edition, this would be a good place for you to start. You drop your $20, it gives you the basic rules, gives you the basic outline, gives you a little adventure to start playing, and you get a couple of minis out of it as well. And it gives you a decision to decide, hey, do I like D&D or do I like old school revival games, or do I like Palladium, or do I like Ruin Quest, or do I like, whatever else type of gaming taste that you have. It's not a large investment into it, and the cool thing is, like I said, with this, who knows, 10 years down the road, collectors may be looking to pay decent money to get their hands on a set like this. So we'll have to see. Until then, it's going to sit on the shelf till I'm ready to use it again. Alright, my friends, that was my video. I hope you all are having a great weekend. I hope where you're at, the weather's finally improving. It's getting nice and warm outside, just like where I'm at. Go outside and enjoy the afternoon and the warm air. It's been a long winter being trapped up inside, and I'll tell you what, it's definitely time. So with all that said, thank you very much for tuning in and listening to this talking head ramble to you through your screen, whichever device that may be that you're watching. And if you enjoyed my video, please click the like button. And if you have not subscribed, please click the subscribe button. At that point, click the little bell icon. Every time I upload a new video, you're going to hear about it. Absolutely. And with that, I'm going to end this video, and Artichoke Dip is out. Talk to you later. Game on, my friends. Always love hearing from you, so feel free to drop me a line with a comment, and I will try to answer it to the best of my ability within the time constraints that I have. So, with that being said, if you leave me a comment and I don't get back to you right away, I'm not ignoring you. The fact is, it might just be a long week, and I'm struggling just drinking coffee to get off to work. And sometimes I wake up late and don't have time to sit down and go through the comments. But I do try to go through them in the mornings and answer your comments to the best of my ability. So with that, I'm going to end this video, and I'm going to move on and enjoy the rest of the beautiful day here. Get some gaming done before the next long week. Alright, my friends. Artichoke Dip out.